going to call our budget meeting together. I'd like to welcome everybody. I have looked forward to this meeting, but now that it's here, I'm as nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof, I believe. But anyway, being that said, I count it a privilege to be a part of this committee. And with all the things that's going on in El Paso and Dayton, I count it a blessing to be able to walk and talk and be free to do and be a part of this. So again, welcome everybody. This is going to be maybe a tough meeting, I don't know, but we're going to try to get through it. We're going to listen to everybody. We're going to ponder these issues. And before we go any further, I would like to ask God to bless our meeting, okay, as we pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this privilege, and we count it an honor to be a part of this. We ask you, Lord, to help us in our decision making. We ask you, Lord, to help us as we look forward to the future and how bright that we think the future is. We thank you for saving us. We thank you for loving us. And again, we ask you to bless this committee. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And with that being said, we're going to ask Mr. Robbie. Before we ask Mr. Robbie, we've got 4 commissioners, I think. Tim Isabel, Robert McCamey, Chuck Fritz, and myself. We're going to give a proposal for our tax increase package, if we can. Mr. Isabel, we're going to recognize you first, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, this is a different budget season than I've ever experienced. I think I've served on the budget committee under 4 different mayors, and the way that this one's went about is completely different. I've never been threatened by not voting for a tax increase, but until now. And I got some notes here. And due to a recent online survey, 82% of the ones that responded to the survey indicated they were not in favor of a tax increase. They are in favor of funding, but it's alternate avenues. Even the school board, when they spoke, they said, we're not asking the commission to raise taxes, we're asking them to fund it. Whether you fund it through the general fund or whatever creative ways, they're not asking for a tax increase, they're asking for funding. And I agree that they need it. I agree that the Sheriff's Department needs it. And what I'm encouraging this body to do is look at some of these other avenues that's come about, and it's all about growth. And a survey provided us by Commissioner Chairman Wandale, put out by Civic Pulse, it talks about the most pressing issue facing local policymakers is budget issues. The suggested solutions, number 1, is grow business. Number 2, change tax policy. 3, improve efficiency. 4, cut waste. And I'm sure that you'll see some of the other commissioners that I've heard about has got some different ideas about cutting waste and some other things. You'll see that today. Also in the same report, they asked policymakers that didn't see budget problems as an issue. In other words, other counties that didn't have see the budget problems as an issue. The reason why is they had economy and growth. Think about that. And I'll address that probably later on in another month or so. And that's why for the last couple of years we've been talking about a growth plan. I'm going to show you how it's already been started by a committed group of residents that want to live in Anderson County, and consortium of developers that have made a huge investment into Anderson County. On your sheet, you'll see at the top is July 2018 to August 13th, Planning Commission. I've been fortunate enough to be able to serve on the Planning Commission. And the good thing about the Planning Commission, it shows growth. It tells you what's going to happen. And if you'll see right down here, July, on the very bottom, Mr. Chairman, July 2018 to date, 120 residential new construction, that's single family, permits issued. No, I don't think so. I didn't make enough. And I've got all these other, I think, reports here to show you.
Glance at it and pass it.
In 2015, we had 61 new construction. 2016, we had 69. 17, 18, we had 80. And as of today, we've got 120. You see that on top of that says total new lots. That's 252. That includes the Hollingsworth. It does not include the Hicks group, which is another 50 some odd. It don't include the Blackstone group. And then when I took that to the property assessor, these are all the sheets from the property assessor. It showed that we had, it come out to about $11 million. Yeah, it's on the second sheet. $11,300,000 appraisal. This is just for the 2019 we already got. And then once that's assessed, that's $2,825,000, which, and if you just did the math of $162,000, that's 17.44 cents. And that's just 2019 built houses. Those are prorated. It don't include commercial. It don't include additions. It don't include garages, as you'll see. It don't even include mobile homes. But that's our growth that we've already had. This sheet here I'll give you is this is your Shane. It's doing residential and commercial development as well. I think the Blackstone group is doing a residential commercial group that maybe Commissioner Meredith can shed some light on. And then going, like I was saying about the Planning Commission, the staff helped me put this together. And it's just things that's happening now in Anderson County.
Jim, where exactly is this at?
You'll see right there on the front. You see Mountain Road right there.
I guess I need to change twice.
Okay, and most recently, we took up a TIF for a motel. We're talking about a new Tractor Supply that's coming in. I went to the Industrial Development Board meeting they had last week. The sales, the retail sales is anticipated to be $3.5 million just from Tractor Supply alone. Last year we had over $1 million in extra revenue. So I'm not saying that the school board and the sheriff's department and raises, yeah, we need that. I'm just saying that we look at alternative ways of funding. And then we're up against as being on finance committee, we've interviewed some people about a finance director. And one of those happens to be an auditor. And what he did actually in Chattanooga, and this is thinking outside the box, is they found that they could ship their waste 10 miles away to another county and save hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, now this is the guy that's applied for a finance director job here, and he's an auditor. There's things that we can do, and I'm sure that other commissioners has got some great ideas. But then out of the hat ideas is one is, reduce duplication of services. We could always do that. A lot of counties you go to one place to buy your tags. You go to the courthouse. Could we combine fleet services? If we put everything at the highway department, we're paying rent in other buildings for that. What if we reduce polling stations? I think Commissioner Scott's got an idea on that. There's ways to cut spendings. One of the other things that I have heard of, I don't know if it's legal, if we could do it here, is that to go to a 4-day school week. If we could go to a 4-day school week, we'd save money on transportation, food services, heating, cooling, security, et cetera. On page 120 of the proposed budget, there's over $3 million for transportation, divided by 180 equals $16,956 a day. I mean, if we could cut that, and I'm just telling you that there's out of the hat ideas that maybe a finance director, like this guy that come up with the idea to save money for the city of Chattanooga, can really help us. And I really appreciate this committee. And so, you've got a tough task in front of you, but that's my proposal.
Tim, I appreciate your, or Commissioner, I appreciate you coming and sharing that with us. Some good ideas. Oh. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think next on our agenda is Commissioner McCamey. Please come on down.
Sheriff, if it's all right, I'm going to set up here. My neuropathy's kicked in here.
You just sit wherever you want to. And any other commissioners that want to come up and sit, more than welcome. More than welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My proposal, I mailed or had our law director email it to every commissioner, calls for a 9.5-cent tax increase. And this pretty much takes care of our needs. I've talked with our school superintendent and school board members. They are in favor of this proposal. They've said that it's something that they could work with. I've talked with the sheriff and his command staff, and they feel that it's something they can work with. Only one item that I would change, and I had proposed a $1,000 salary supplement to each employee. When I proposed this, we had 396 employees. Today, we've got 394. So, but anyways, I would like to make that a permanent raise. I was under the impression the school board had made theirs a supplement, a $1,000 supplement, and I was wanting to sort of follow suit with them. But then I found out that theirs was an actual raise, and I would like to, change that portion. One other item that I left out is that in our debt service, we're actually overfunding our debt service by about $80,000 a year. And our finance guy, Scott Gibson, says that we could take 50,000 of that 80,000 and reallocate that amount to solid waste, which would give them what they need. So it pretty much takes care of it, and like I said, it's a 9.5 cent tax increase. And a couple of other items that I came up with later. Our property tax growth in 2017-2018 was $695,000. We're on track this year to be $1.1 million. Sales tax growth 2018 was $2,683,000. 2019 it was $3,158,000. It's a $500,000 increase. this past year. So the growth would take care of the employee raise. But I do like the $1,000 per employee rather than the 2%. You know, 2% of nothing is nothing, and we've got a lot of employees. A great majority, I'd say 75% of our employees make under $30,000 a year. And those top tier employees, some of those would get $1,200 a year at the 2% that's been recommended. And then majority would get between $400 and $500. And I just think we need to close that gap if we can. You know, our first responders, our sheriff's department, our jailers, you know, there's not very many of those that make over $50,000. So this 1,000 is going to, you know, take care of some of that disparity that we've talked about, that our HR director has pointed out that we need to sort of close the gap if we can on that. And I think this $1,000 each would do that. And I'm ready to ask or answer any questions that y'all might have. One other point too is this is a reappraisal year, and we're going to have to readjust the tax rate. And the present tax rate is $279. It'd go to $288.5 under my proposal. Under the reappraisal, we cannot, we have to be revenue neutral, so we'll be reducing the rate at some point later on this year when we, you know, get a final number from the property assessor. So it could not even be a property tax rate increase. The rate could go down to where it is now and still generate the monies that we would need to do this. But like I said, I'm here to answer any questions you might have. So,
questions from our board? Denver.
The 9.5, can you break that down for me and tell me what exactly goes where?
it's 5 cents for schools and 4.5 for, I mean, yeah, 5 cents schools and 4.5 for the sheriff's department.
Okay, and you said you're in favor of the $1,000. Is that a bonus or a raise?
No, that would be a raise. It would be a permanent.
Either way, either 2% or the 1,000, it would both be a raise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the 2%, like I said, I'm not a favor of percentage raises because I feel like the ones who make the most get the most, and the ones that make the least get the least. You know, so I've never been in favor of percentage raises. I'd rather give across the board raises.
I understand. Well, I would be in favor more of a raise instead of a bonus, just because a bonus does nothing to correct the disparities on down the road.
Right.
It just spends money this year, and then next year our employees fall further behind.
Right. And I, like I said, I originally thought that the school boards was just a bonus, a $1,000 bonus, but I found out later that was an actual raise, and it is something that's recurring. And but I felt like, you know, using one-time money to do that, which is one thing that I've always talked against, but with the growth and just some of the things that Commissioner Isbell pointed out, I think we can absorb that next year in just growth. So I still think that we'll be pretty much on even keel once the reappraisal and all's done.
Thank you. Any other, Ms. Scott?
Thank you. Robert, with your research regarding the employees, how many employees do we have in the county?
396. Well, 394 as of today, wasn't it, Robbie? Yeah, 394.
And that's full-time or full-time and part-time?
That's full-time.
That's full-time.
Without a CPAS or, you know, without something like that attached to it.
Okay. That's all, thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. McCain? Thank you, sir.
Is it all right if I asked him a question?
Ask it. Go away. Go ahead.
Robert, I heard you say 5 cents.
Use your microphone, please.
I heard you say 5 cents for the schools. How much did you say for the sheriff's department?
4.5 cents.
4.5?
Yeah.
And then the $1,000 raise for all full-time employees, 394.
Yes.
Is that the 3 items that you covered?
Also, there's $400,000 that would come out of the rollover money or undesignated fund balance to go with the schools to complete our obligation. Some people said we were obligated for 3 years, some said 2, but anyway, they've agreed that $400,000 one-time money would be sufficient, and that would take care of our commitment on the Chromebooks.
Thank you. And that was your proposal?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Robert.
Any other questions for Mr. McCamey?
Another question.
Please.
Have you thought any about the capital outlay? Do you have any ideas on that? Did you cover that in your?
Well, if you all remember, I sent out this sheet some time ago that shows our projected rollover. That's $2,796,000, $2.8 million in monies that we budgeted but did not spend this year. That's coming back into the county general fund. Our present fund balance is what, 3.6 or 3.9 since we got the state money? 3.2. So that brings us up to what, 5 million?
And I do think rollovers on them. When we didn't run that report, which we can't predict rollover money until we close the books in August, mid-August, but the report shows 2.7, but I think the rollover is going to be more like 2 million because some of that money's already committed to some of these reserves, and we have to do this. It's like a little project at the end of the year that moves money from unassigned to the reserve that because of resolutions and stuff. So right. It's going to be more like 2 million, in my opinion.
Well, your opinion counts heavily here.
Yeah.
Not really, but.
But anyway, the rollover money that we have, coupled with our present fund balance, puts us well over $5 million. So, you know, we can actually take $1 million and place into capital projects if we choose to do that, or we can just leave it in county general fund and you know, pull it out as needed for capital.
Any other questions?
Yep. I just wanted to be sure. So in addition to the 5 cent tax increase for the 5 cent tax increase for the schools, there's 400,000 is in addition to that?
Yes.
And that 400,000 is for?
Well, we committed at one point on the Chromebooks, and I was thinking it was for 3 years. Some said no, we did it for 2 years, but we were supposed to give them about $400,000 each year as they implemented the Chromebook program for elementary and then middle school and then high school. And we did 1 year, and then we said, hey, you know, we've kind of run into some problems, and we don't want to raise taxes, so can we just skip this year? And we only paid for 1 year. And this gives them another year, and they've said they would forgive us for the third year if we can do that. So.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Fritz.
Oh, my proposal?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I thought I had a question.
Sorry.
No, I didn't have a question, but of course, my proposal was sent out by the law director, and everybody has a copy of it also in advance. So, but basically, the intent of my proposal is, you know, that everybody on here, I think on the budget committee, and then I think a few of the commissioners in attendance, got to hear the gentleman from the finance that does our bonds and everything talk and about the importance of our fund balance and how the county of our size needs to have a fund balance of at least $6 million or more in that fund balance, and how that and it talks just the importance of that fund balance being that $6 million or more, and how we need to leave that get there and leave it there. We at one time, when I was on the budget committee many years ago, we had a pretty healthy fund balance, and we even had our police cars and ambulances, as you notice, in the operating budget. So they were paid for, and we didn't have to worry about using it as capital outlay. And and then things started getting tight, and instead of addressing it like we should have then, the commission decided at that point in time to start using the fund balance to address one recurring needs, and that's when the fund balance started dropping way down below, and then we got to the point where we started saying that the budget was balanced, even though we were $400,000 and $500,000 short. But we just kept getting deeper and deeper in the hole. And as you notice, Natalie, who went through the whole budget process with us and put up to the very end before she finally left. So we wasn't left in the cold, told us, that to get the county where we would need to be today and address all the needs of this county, it would take a 52.5-cent tax increase to address all the needs of this county. And so that's quite a bit of money, and showed the shape that this county is in to address all the issues facing this county. I talked to the, I do, as you notice in my write-up, talked to the sheriff, and I talked to the schools. And they told me that they still stand by their proposals that they've submitted. They wouldn't have submitted it if they didn't still stand by it. The only reason they said that they would take, if we give them less, that they will take whatever we give them because they don't have a choice. I mean, if we give them 1%, they're going to take it because they don't have a choice, and they'll take it and operate the best way they can. I mean, it's going to hurt them, and they're not going to be able to operate the way they need to operate, but they presented a proposal that they say they got to have. If you remember when Whitey Hitchcock was sitting over there, and for the past commission, and even for that, I have mentioned time and time again, when we added on to the new jail over there, we never properly funded the jailers for that addition. And I kept bringing it up and over again that we did not fund and put into a salary code the jailers that are actually funding and operating the jail up there right now. We are relying on state money that we get from the prisoners to operate that particular jail. And then when we keep hearing say, okay, let's give the state back their prisoners. If we give the state back their prisoners, then we're going to have a tax increase to even operate that portion of the jail. So at some point in time, we've got to address the jailers up there. And so if we address the sheriff's needs, then we're going to have to step up to the plate and actually start putting money into the salary codes. And so after talking to the sheriff and the schools, they still stand, as they said, by what they originally submitted. What they originally submitted, I think the schools originally requested 8 cents, and I think the sheriff originally asked it 8.3. But in my proposal, I'm still sticking at with 6 cents for each one of them, and then 2 cents raised for the employees. We keep, Natalie also made a comment that it would take 22.5 cents for new for capital outlays and things of that such, just to get the county moving forward. All this new growth that we're talking about, all this new stuff that's coming in, just the money, any extra money coming in, the capital outlays and the needs of this county is going to more than enough take over any potential growth that we're going to have coming in, and then some. We still ain't going to have enough money from the new growth and the new revenues coming in to address all the needs of this county with the capital things. So we've got to step up to the plate and address it. And we went from a 52-cent tax increase down to 18.5 cents, and now we're down to 14. And there, you're at a $100,000 home, you're looking at $2.92 a month, and for a $100,000 home, and to address the needs of this county and to get the sheriff and the schools and the employees something, and I think we've got to step up and do something right for this county.
Any questions for Mr. Chuck? Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Mr. White, I would like to say one thing regarding Mr. Chris's proposal. The last paragraph, which talks about the CTAS raises.
Oh, the raises also, that requires no action from the commission. I did put a statement in there that...
Well, I just wanted to let everybody know that all the CTAS and the county commissioners all received a 2.5% raise. You all got it. It was put in the budget this year.
Okay.
So that has been done, just to clear that up.
Thank you.
I just noticed it wasn't showing an increase in the initial budget thing I had gotten. Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Denenberg?
I don't have a question, but I want to thank both of the commissioners who were diligent enough to provide the panel here with written copies prior to this meeting so we could go over them and, look to see if they did have any questions. So I really thank you both for that, because I did send out an email and ask anyone who had additional proposals or information that they wanted to provide to this committee to please do so before today, so we would have the opportunity to go over it and read it. So to those who were not able to do that, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be looking strongly at those that I did receive in written form. Thank you.
Any other questions? Then we're going to hear one. Mr. Bob.
I'm one of the new members on the commission, and I'm not very well acquainted with the rollover money. And I had just a couple of questions. Is this a common practice for the commission to use rollover money to balance the budget?
We have done that, yes, sir.
In what kind of sums, for example? Is this a normal sum, or sometimes is it $1 million or $5 million, or?
Put it this way, your financial people strongly recommend against it because it's one-time money.
Well, that was my next question. If we take this rollover money, this money we're going to have to fund this in perpetuity, right?
No, but if you don't address it this year, you'll have to address it next year.
Yes.
So in other words, we'll have to come up with another $400,000 next year, or go into the rollover money. Okay, that's all I
It's
need.
correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bob. Ever since February, I have been proposing a 10-cent tax increase. My new one this morning is based on the projected deductions that we're going to approve in a few minutes. My proposal for a tax increase would be 3 cents for the schools, 3 cents for the sheriff, and 1.5 cents for the capital projects. And the raises would be monies that we're going to save in a few minutes by approving these deductions. So that's my proposal. So with that being said, Mr. Robbie, if you'll start us on our agenda, if I can find my...
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm a little slow, so I got 3 cents for the schools, 3 cents for the sheriff, and you're going to talk about the raises, but there was one other item.
1.5 cents for capital projects.
Capital.
Yes.
And I apologize for my interruption.
You just go ahead. Mr. Robbie.
Okay. The first thing we need is a motion to realign the budget for the proposed budget for 1920.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion to second. Discussion? Motion passes. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Section 2A, proposed amendments that are modifications and realignment of health insurance codes and/or codes impacted from reversion back to the 18-19 budget. There's a total savings there of $150,626 that are just obvious savings. I mean, I don't think anybody would even question them. It's pages.
Approve is approved, Mr. Chairman.
A and B?
Second.
Just A. Got a motion and a second that we approve.
36.
Any questions? Mr. Bob?
Robbie, I just questioned how we ended up, if I understand this correctly, if these raises or the increases that are in the current budget were not requested by the various departments, how did they end up in the budget to begin with?
Well, because when we reverted back to last year's budget, sometimes what they asked for in their current budget was less than what last year's budget was. They made some cuts in their department, and we still gave them last year's money.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
What's the total amount for A and B? You added in what's the total amount?
150,626. Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Robbie said it was 280.
Well, that's for A and B. He asked A and B.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A and B.
A and B, and I didn't know what B.
We hadn't accounted for
We
B
haven't
yet.
done B yet.
Okay.
Now we're going to tackle B.
Okay.
B is suggested changes based on multi-year trends and underspending and/or reserve availability that could lower budgeted expenditure levels. It's a possible savings of $137,596.
I would love to have a motion.
Move to approve.
I got a motion to approve. I need a second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. 37?
You're talking about reoccurring money? Or
Yes.
just one-time money?
Reoccurring.
Questions? Questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Alrighty. Group C is other possible amendments that could lower expenditure levels. One example I have is the 106. There's EMA requested $120,000 for 2 vehicles, which is capital improvement, is the same as other departments' needs, which we're paying in the capital improvement fund, or going to, figure out how to pay later, which we could send that back to capital improvement also. So that would be another $120,000, possibly.
Robbie, why isn't that under our capital improvements right now?
Because the budget committee early in the process Steve made the presentation and you all approved to, we took it out of the 263 fund, $280,000.
We took it out of 263.
Yes.
Go ahead.
That's the insurance.
Sir?
That was our insurance fund.
Right.
Yes. Go ahead.
These would probably need to be discussed and.
Mr. Meredith.
Motion that we defer this to the capital outlay plan as a part of that group that we have in our packet.
The total 37 to 50?
Yes, sir.
I've got a motion that we defer.
Well, actually, it'd be a savings of $60,000.
If you did,
One item?
it's $60,000, but if you did 2 cars, it'd be $120,000.
Sorry. $120,000.
I just can't imagine a vehicle, sorry. We got $120,000 set aside for 2 vehicles.
That was off a state contract. Each vehicle was, when I found out
So
this
we
morning.
got, the prices has already been, the vehicles have already been priced.
That's what it said, a state contract, so I'm assuming yes.
What kind of vehicles is it?
It's
Like that, Steve.
One was an F-250 or F-350 truck. The other one was a Ford Excursion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Meredith.
If I may, I think Steve is correct. A lot of that's to rig it out. It's not just the cost of the vehicle.
Right.
That's the bigger
Okay.
cost. Yeah.
The
It's been proposed here that we take 60,000 out of that.
120, Mr. Chairman.
There's 2 vehicles.
There's 2 vehicles at 60,000.
I put 60 but on this amendment, but at the bottom, it could be 120 if you make both vehicles, if you move both vehicles. So you can do 1, 2, or...
My motion is to move 120,000, to defer it to the capital outlay list.
Okay.
We're replacing an 04 and an 07.
That was just one, that'd be just one-time money anyway.
That's correct.
And then we're going to drop a 1999 Jeep Cherokee that's our backup, 97, 94 pickup truck that's our backup. That we both probably should have had.
Yeah. So, Robbie, if we defer this to capital outlay, what impact will that have on Steve's? What kind of time frame are we looking at?
Well, as soon as we pass the budget, I would like to move in the next budget meeting that we pay for some of the smaller items out of the unassigned fund balance or undesignated fund balance. We already actually had a budget amendment worked up to do that, to pay for all the smaller items, but since we've never passed a budget, I've never brought it before the committee. I'm still waiting on that to happen,
Okay.
as we all are.
It'll help you clarify, Mr. Chairman. It would go along with the list with the ambulances, the sheriff's cars. It would in that
In that
essential
prioritized list?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Any other questions concerning this motion? Mr. Teresa?
Another question. It's regarding this item C. It'll be the next item that Robbie will be talking about. It's $132,500 for half of the fire truck. Our fire truck resolution shows that each of the volunteer fire departments, well, actually all the fire departments, get a new fire truck every year. The rescue squad is to be getting the next vehicle. Rescue squad doesn't use a fire truck. If I'm not mistaken, it's a staff of 4 people.
Sir?
What's the question?
We're going to vote on the deferral
I
first.
don't think we voted on the.
I thought we're still under item C.
Well, we're taking them one at a time, sorry.
Sorry.
And I was looking at something else.
Okay.
As you can see, we got a lot of stuff here in front of us that well, all of us have got a lot of stuff. All in favor of the deferral, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now with your question, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. So each of the fire departments gets funding. They're on a list, 1 per year, for fire truck funds. The rescue squad, like I said, has a staff of 4. They don't get a fire truck. And per the resolution, the funding can either go towards a fire truck or apparatus. They're getting $27,000, I believe, $27,500, just like all the fire departments are, the volunteers. That would give them nearly $300,000 for gear for 4 people. My suggestion is that EMA be over the rescue squad. Therefore, all of their equipment would merge, and give the rescue squad this year $75,000 out of the resolution funds, and their $27,000, so that they can get whatever apparatus is necessary. I mean, I don't see that there's a realistic reason to give them $265,000. Sure, go ahead.
I agree with that statement. So what are you saying about the 132,000?
Well, the 132,000, that's just far more than really what's necessary. Give them $75,000, actually pull it out of the 263 fund, and it won't require any sort of tax increase. That's almost a penny tax-wise. I mean, we've got volunteer fire departments out there that have got a crew of 20 people, and they're on the corner begging for money to help their department stay afloat.
Is that a motion?
Oh, I'd love to make it a motion.
I've got a motion that we reduce the 132,500 to 75,000 for the EMA.
Well, that's
Commissioner White. That's reducing 265,000 to 75. That's a savings of 190,000.
Correct.
Well, wait a minute. Let me get my head on here now. We've got 132.5.
Right, but check the page I put behind it.
That's
Which is
page
53,
54.
54. Look at page 54, and I've underlined 54410-316. This year, there's $265,000 budgeted for a full fire truck.
Yes.
So I was just suggesting, as a possibility, that we only, pay for half, because that's what we've done in previous years. But she's suggesting only fund
Funding a
$75,000.
total of $75,000.
Saving $190,000. And each,
Can I address this from a procedural standpoint?
Let Robbie finish, sure.
no, I'm done.
Okay, please.
I would call Jay into this on this particular effort. The rescue squad was part of the fire truck resolution, and I think we could do something like go back to splitting the appropriation, but they are an independent 501c. They have their own board. The last I knew, Vaughn Becker, Chief Becker, is the chairman of that board. It's something that could be looked at in the future through and this is where I'd ask Jay, through a recension or a modification of that resolution going forward. But I don't think we could change that appropriation level because it has this amount, plus it specifies the amount of growth in that appropriation each year, if I'm not mistaken, Jay.
Help us out, Jay.
Yeah, I'll be glad to.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mayor. If you don't mind, ask me the specific issue there.
She's wanting to reduce the allocation to the rescue squad and then put them under EMA. I'm saying they are their own 501c with their own board. And the fire truck resolution does include them in the rotation for receipt of the allocation. So I don't see how we can break that commitment unless we went back and readdressed the fire truck resolution.
That's correct. And I do have a problem with bringing a 501c3 into the supervision and oversight of the county government.
Yeah.
I don't think they would want that, and I haven't spoken with anybody. That's an issue right there. Then, over the years, I've had several commissioners talk to me about addressing that fire truck resolutions. It's a very good plan, and Commissioner Fritz was the one that brought it up many years ago. And I understand that, but it does need some adjustments at this point. And I'll be glad to do that anytime you want to, but I'd like some specific input from all commissioners as to what you would want to get changed, and also the mayor. But to agree with the mayor, I have an issue with bringing a 501c3 under the supervision of the county department.
Okay,
Getting close, Chair.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, I don't think, to Commissioner Scott's motion, I don't think we can break the commitment. You could change the timing of the funding. We could go back and continue to fund half this year. I mean, if they wanted to do what Robbie's amendment is, which is reduce it 130, split it again. So the total allocation that is required in the fire truck resolution is now at 265. Is that where it is?
So we could motion.
We could break it back into 2 years, but we can't just strike them out during the budget process when we have a fire truck resolution that says they are a recipient.
Correct. But then again, on the other hand, that fire truck resolution can be amended by county commission at any time, if they so desire. That can occur, and we can do that and have it ready. If you so desire, we can have it ready by county commission, but I need some specific input on what you will change in it.
Okay, so the question, Ms. Scott.
Okay, so Jay, is it possible for it to save us $190,000 this year, to reduce that amount to $75,000? If my motion says put that in 190,000 on the end of the line, in other words, move that below the next one, so that it's there. I don't want to see us fund $132,500 to a department that's going to get another $27,000 and it's going to affect the taxpayers.
I understand. Are you talking about the department being EMA or the
Rescue Squad.
Okay, and this is separate and apart from the issue of bringing 501c3 Rescue Squad under the county commission.
I'm focusing on the truck right now for point one.
I'll go back to my original response. It can be done, but we would have to amend that fire truck resolution.
Okay, so can we give them $75,000 now and talk about, you know, the resolution being amended at our next meeting, or?
Yes.
Sure.
But you would need to amend that resolution.
Sure.
As soon as possible prior to the final vote on this budget period.
Okay.
I would certainly not want to see us go forward with a resolution that's in place right now and approve a final county budget that's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would have to be done right away.
Would we have to take it to operations or do it today?
We're not passing the budget today.
But I mean, for the motion for the resolution.
Yes, I would take it to operations
Okay.
Monday night. If you want it done Monday night, get with me over the weekend, and I'll make the adjustment.
Okay.
So in the meantime, Ms. Teresa, why don't you let your motion reflect the half of it, the 132.5, and then when we get the necessary paperwork done, we can address the total amount then.
I would suggest, I would.
No, let's don't get the.
I would be in agreeing to give them $75,000 instead of $132,500. They're already getting $27,500.
I understand, but we don't want to do nothing before the right time.
Sure. Where's the 27? Is that the county's donation to them?
Yes.
I'm trying to think if any other entity is in the same shoes as that.
Gotcha.
I'd say a lot of our volunteer fire departments are 501c3s.
Correct.
I don't want to treat somebody differently. And that appears to be what we're attempting to do here. But again, that county commission resolution on fire trucks can be amended. But I would like to, instead of piecemeal in this resolution, I'd like to get it adjusted the way we want to see it. The mayor's had some great ideas in the past on adjusting that resolution. I'd like to get them all incorporated one time instead of going back the next couple of years and trying to straighten this out. Please, if you have any ideas, get them to me as quickly as possible. We've got operations on Monday, and this would be new business that we'd have to take up, and I'd like for everyone to have a chance to see that resolution prior to the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, one of my concerns is the next one that's in line to receive a fire truck or the funding for it is Andersonville, and they need a truck. They got bumped down to the end of the list. They were higher up at one point, but they got bumped down because of some things that happened. And I don't think it's fair for them to get thrown out another 2 or 3 years after this. But at the same time, I don't agree with the amount of funding for a rescue squad of 4 people as opposed to a fire department of 20 or 25. That's taking care of an entire community and then providing mutual aid.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor to reduce this 132.5 to $75,000. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
You guys are something else.
Then the motion dies. Mr. Shane.
Never mind, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jay. Then the motion was, the motion here is to reduce EMA from 265 to 132.5.
That's just, it's not been a motion, it's just a suggestion, and we don't have to do it. That was just a possible savings. So no, somebody would have to make the motion.
So we're going to leave the 132.5 like it's presented.
You're leaving the full 265 in then? Okay.
No.
We're leaving 132.5.
65?
That's what, there's not been another motion. I mean, that.
Well, then let me have a motion that we accept the 132.5. Maybe that's.
Mr. Chairman.
I got a motion. Got a motion and a second that we accept the 132.5. That'd be half of what the allotted 265 was. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Please help me stay in line here, guys.
And with that, you all we just passed a savings of $540,722 in the budget.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Next item,
540,
please.
722, which is 3.3 pennies.
722.
Okay. Section D is the Budget Committee approved increases to consider modifying. And the first thing I have on here is the employee 2% cost of living raise that we have 3 pennies set aside for.
Mr. Meredith.
Robbie, we have, our next item is solid waste. Do you want to address that, or you want to go to the amendment?
Sorry, well, I have, in Section D, I have employee raises first. Solid waste is the, only that had some materials, other materials with it. I didn't have
Can
anything.
we hear from Jeff, Mr. Chairman, on this,
Sure.
on his options he's presented?
Before the raises?
It's his letter he presented to us, sir.
We can move solid waste up one. That's fine.
Be careful, just move it up and hear from Jeff.
Is that okay with the board to move Jeff up?
Yes, sir.
Come on, Mr. Jeff.
So I propose 3 potential options and a last resort 4th option. One thing to be noted was when we did the original budget in January, we were up 300 tons or so from what we were last year. By the end of the year, and I didn't have those numbers in January, we finished the year at over 1322 plus tons above what we did last year. That's a lot of money. It's $22.60 times 1,300. With the CPI increase that we have this year, our tonnage rate is going to be $23 per ton. If we finish it, and I'm projecting potentially another 600-ton increase, it could be 1,300 again. With 32.6, which would be 600 above what we did this year, that's 749.8. So I have bumped the budget for the landfill up another $20,000. If you've seen the options I've got, what we can do with 1 full-time and 1 part-time employee, it may be a slight struggle, but I think we can open the Blockhouse Valley Center every day from 8 to 4 and every Saturday. That would also allow the animal control to be open at the same time that we're open.
Is there a need for you to be open every day, 8 to 5?
We do have complaints that we're only open on Wednesdays and the first and third Saturday.
But are there a need for you to be open every day?
Don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know until we experimented with it and saw how many more people were willing to come during the week. During a Wednesday, we'll have 30 to 40 people bring material into us, be it washers, dryers, et cetera, tires. Saturdays, we have 20 or 30 people come in every Saturday, and that's in a 5-hour period of time. So I don't know.
So how many?
We get a lot of complaints that the center there at in Claxton quit taking the scrap metal.
Yeah.
And so that might be one of the things, because I mean,
It would be a guess. I mean, we may be able to do it 2 or 3 days a week. But we do have complaints that we're not open and convenient to the public.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff, also it says in here that you would also, this would allow the animal shelter to be open as well.
Right.
So
Yes.
would it be the same hours, the 8 to 4?
Yes.
would that allow volunteers to even come in?
That'd be up to Brian, yeah. Yeah.
You'll cover it? Okay.
Proceed.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
you done?
Sure.
Well, I have another question
Okay.
for you. Is this 80,000, Robbie, on this letter, is that one time, or do we need to do that as recurring? It just says see revenue codes. What was your thoughts on that?
I think that would be reoccurring.
Recurring? Okay, that's kind of what I thought. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. It looks like we are at $540,722, which is 3.3 cents on the tax rate we've actually saved. I think we go ahead and fund 1/2 penny to solid waste to cover the $80,583, and I so move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Teresa.
It kind of makes sense to me for you to be open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday a full day,
Right?
instead of being open a half a day on Saturday. I mean, it may not comply with, some of your schedules or your staff schedules,
Right.
but as
What
a
we have to do
resident,
at that point is cut out half a day to adjust for the Saturdays.
right,
And so it would depend on how many employees we have to be able to, we need 2 people at that
Sure.
facility to operate it, because some of the material that comes in is more than one person can
well, and
lift
that's why I
at
was
any
saying
given
knock the
time.
Fridays out.
Right.
Make it Monday through Thursday, and then on Saturdays.
Well, one of the things I put, the reason that I think it may be a struggle, and I've kept the half days on the Saturday, is Thursdays and Fridays, when we have the employees, we are here at the courthouse, the Jolly Building.
Gotcha.
14 different schools, pulling paper and cardboard.
Okay.
That's one employee. That's 2 days out.
Okay.
The rest of the time, when we're out there on Mondays and Tuesdays, we're breaking down the material that we get in. Those refrigerators, we are tearing them apart.
Sure.
I'm the only person certified to remove Freon at the moment. Freon has to be removed from all of those devices. We tear it down, we pull the copper, we pull the aluminum. That way, when we send it out, we get a better return on what we're doing out there. Wednesdays, we have every tire dealer in the county coming in.
Okay.
And so,
My only concern is for the people that are funding this, and that would be our taxpayers,
Right.
the residents of the
Right.
county. You've got to make it convenient for them to be able to, take their things in.
if we had the full
Unfortunately
staff.
for you, I work all week long,
Right.
and for me to
And that
raise,
is a complaint.
you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
If for me to go down there, it would be inconvenient. If I get there at 5 minutes after you've closed on Saturday,
Right.
don't think I'm standing at the gate praising you.
Right.
Okay.
We can try and make some adjustments and shift that. I would be worried then that maybe we would have to be open a half day, one day during the
Sure.
week to
Or
accommodate.
tweak it up to 3 o'clock.
But as you go
during the
forward,
week.
you could adjust.
We can figure that out and
Yeah.
adjust.
Yeah, as the need arose.
Yeah.
And make the people aware, somehow, some way that you are open on Saturdays.
Oh, well,
I
we'll
think
have
you're
to
going
do
to find
signs, and we'll have to run some ads. in
I
the
think your
papers
flow
and-
is going to go up then.
Andy can put it on Channel 95.
There you go.
Any other questions?
So don't you think that maybe we should, instead of going from 1 day to 5 days, 5.5 days?
Right.
Don't you think we ought to like bump it up to 3
Stair step.
maybe?
Sure.
And the new convenience center that's going into my district,
Yep.
is that not going to be able to accommodate some of this? And I mean, it's going to be open all the time. Can't you take?
It's a different, that's for garbage and the regular, like curbside recycling, cardboard, plastic, et cetera.
So you can't.
We're
you
not
can't-
planning on putting, if we did take any of these other materials there, then it would require one of the employees to take a truck, go to that facility, get it, and return it to the blockhouse facility.
Yes, sir. But it's the
Yeah, the blockhouse valley is where they keep all of the tires.
I understand that.
The 80th.
And they're not going to have that.
Yeah.
Got a motion on the floor that we approve option 1. Any other discussion?
I have a question. So that's not a half a penny increase, it's $80,000 transfer.
I'm just rounding the math, so you'll have to get it exact.
Right. So that's a transfer, operating transfer from general funds, what you're trying to do there, out of the main. Right.
Out of the savings that we've already recognized?
Yes.
Correct? Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye. One opposed. Thank you.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I got a point I'd like to bring up if I could, please. I raised my hand earlier and I didn't get recognized, but.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. I wasn't aware my budget was getting cut and I just had a
I
question.
think we done cut it.
Oh, you have? But all this new money and growth we're talking about, you cut the money that I'm using to do that with. So I wasn't aware that this was going to happen, but that's what I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I've got a reappraisal plan that we turned in and approved in 2015 that approved that money. And I've been putting in capital outlay. I only need it on reappraisal years, but it was for my part-time staff for the reappraisal where the state used to send out people and they don't anymore. But I just want to let you know that it was,
Johnny, our thinking was, Mr. Alley, our thinking was that we would take that, part of that part-time money away, and then as the need occurred, we would ask you to request that funding back. That is not going to ever, we would never empower your office to operate, but we was looking for monies to cut, to save, and that was part of it.
right, okay, I mean, I just wanted to make that point because I've got that employee right now. I'm currently in the preparing for the 2020 reappraisal. And we took out enough this year so we could start in 19 and then the money's for 2020. I guess I can come, even though it's been approved, I guess I can come back and ask for it again in at the beginning of 2020 if it's needed.
Yes, as needed. Ms. Teresa.
Johnny, some time ago, you came to the commission asking for space for a break room. Is that open yet?
No, well, there was actually space for the equalization board hearing and with a conference table, and when it wasn't being used for that to be as a break room for our employees. But no, it's not the table. The brackets for the table, when they assembled it, they didn't come in with it, so the table could fall. So for safety reasons, I've not opened it.
Right. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is it was about $4,500 that you spent for furniture to go in that room.
Yes, ma'am.
You came up to us on a number of occasions saying, I have to have a break room. My employees are eating at their desk or behind this wall. And a group of us got together, took time out of our schedules and our lives to go around to the different offices and departments in this building and made instant modifications, had people moving furniture and boxing up stuff and putting it in storage so you could have a break room for your staff.
That's correct, yes.
I understand that you need funds, perhaps, for part-time help, but I've requested all these departments to look at their budgets and start trimming back the fat and looking at what they're overspending on and pulling it back a bit. You spent $4,500. That room is still not open.
Right. I mean, and I can't open it for safety reasons. It's out of my control. We've back ordered the brackets. I can't have the.
It was a break room for your staff.
No, it's going to be an equalization board meeting.
You had asked for a break room for your staff.
I asked for both and for a combination, and we're going to try to put a screen in there. We're going to display the maps
unfortunately,
and
at this time, we've already made the amendment for you not to have the $25,000, and it's like he said, you're just going to have to.
That's fine. I mean, it's already in my budget. It was approved in 2015 before commission.
Okay.
I'm not here to.
Right.
That is what it is. If I don't get it, then I don't know if I can do the reappraisal or not. As far as the break room goes, I mean, it'll be finished as soon as it can. I mean, I would have opened it last week or 2 weeks ago if I could have. Actually, you came by and asked, where's the furniture? And I was trying to buy used furniture, but there just wasn't anything with a 12-foot conference table that would accommodate all the attorneys, and I think it puts Anderson County in a better light to have a professional board meeting room without, people having to stand in the
People
corner.
stopped what they were doing and came in on the weekends to move things so that you would be able to be accommodated.
That's right, and I allowed storage in the back of the room.
Okay, let's just stay focused on where we're going here.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We've took your money. If you need it, come back.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
I mean, I wasn't being rude. I mean, that's just what's happened.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Please.
I want to speak positive about Mr. Alley's request. I think it's very important for that 2020 event that he's scheduling, and he's already hired a part-time employee to get us prepared for that. That's preparing to bring these revenue funds in to this county. I think that's one of the most important items we've discussed so far this morning, is his part-time help. And I want to speak in favor of that. And he came up here and he's being chastised about the break room. And I think that was improper. I think he's got a legitimate request for support for his reappraisal next year. And I want to support him on that and let you know how I feel about it.
Okay, thanks, sir. Ms. Catherine.
having sat on the equalization board and knowing what it's like when people pile into a very closed space for these meetings, I certainly support our property assessor and the need for a professional atmosphere for these meetings, because it was a little bit embarrassing at times when there wasn't enough room for the attorneys that come in and gaggle form to sit in on these meetings. And I'm just glad that he does have the space now that can more professionally accommodate his needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I know you want to move on. Johnny, is this one-time money or recurring since you've already got a part-time employee? They don't have benefits. How are you handling the current?
I only use it on reappraisal, but I put it in capital outlays so we know it's coming.
Right, I understand. But the current employee is part-time, not full-time.
Correct.
And just to be clear, he had $53,000 budgeted for part-time, and we cut it to 25. We didn't cut out his part-time budget.
So he currently has 25.
25,000. And I just looked at what we were paying Mr. Clear and thought we could get by with 25,000. It was just a suggested cut.
Based on
what has been happening so far.
And that could possibly be.
Yeah.
And they only have one employee part-time right now.
But Mr. Clear probably will not be back next time. We had to put a forecast out in 15 for what it was going to cost, and it would probably take 2, maybe even 3 to replace him. But he's a 40-year ex-DPA employee that I hired that does exceptionally well.
Just bring us a proposal back in the September budget meeting for the rest, if you think you need it further.
Well, I will, or I can put it in the 2020 or 2025 reappraisal plan. It'll have to be approved early on next year.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'd have to look 5 years down the road.
Okay.
So to clarify what we've done, Mr. Alley had 53,000 in that part-time code. We took 35,000.
We took 28.
We took 25 and left.
We took 28 and left 25.
All right, we took 28 and left 25.
Yes, sir.
So we didn't completely clear that account out. So you've got money left there if and when you need it. Use it.
And I turned some back in 15 too, probably about the same in 15, and I probably will this year, but it makes me a little uneasy knowing that I don't have it if I need it.
We got you back. We got you back.
Well, just as long as I know that, thank you.
From the chair.
I heard that from the chair. I hope that's on
We
the record.
got your back.
All right. Because all the the growth and all that we're picking up, we're
Checks
really
in the mail,
busy.
Johnny.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Employees 2% raise.
Yes, sir.
3 pennies.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for Rob before I make a motion. Robbie, to Commissioner McCamey's request on the $1,000 across the board for a COLA for 394 employees, what does that cost?
Is he still here? Oh, okay. I gave him it's over 500,000 with benefits, with retirement, Social Security, and Medicare.
Adding, so
yes.
$500,000,
right?
Did you think? Okay. And the current, what's in the current budget, what does that equal out? Is it
394,565 is the 2% raise.
I'm sorry?
394,565 is the cost of a 2% raise for employees. 394,565.
And then $500,000 for the 1,000 across the board.
Right.
Be a total of 521,656.
21,656. Yes. And Robbie, after the appropriation we just did from the 540,722, we just did a half a penny, which leaves 2.8 cents, correct?
About 460,139.
Oh, sorry, what now?
460,139.
I would like to do that $1,000. That was a really great idea, Commissioner McCamey, but currently the math's not adding up unless we add to it. You currently have 3 pennies in there in the current?
Yes.
Okay. So we'd really
3 pennies was
we'd really be 0.2.
1 cent was for some readjusting.
That's
right.
correct.
92,000.
Half a cent.
And my plan was, we could use readjusting when the new funds come in.
Right. Trying to do the math on 2.8.
It's
close.
453. We're 100,000 difference, so that's another half a penny or more.
Mr. Chairman.
What do you think?
Yeah, until we get
Ms.
some
Scott.
answers.
I like the idea of the $1,000. Somebody who's lower on the list of, the income is going to get a greater,
Percentage.
Correct.
yeah, percentage. And with all the, this disparagement
Right.
talk, it's fair. We've got people down here that
Yeah.
need to be brought up.
That's why I
as
agree.
opposed to the ones that are up here saying
Right.
hallelujah.
Okay.
So Robbie, again, 521,656 gets $1,000 across the board.
That's including benefits. Now, this 394, 565 would probably cost the same amount of money for when you're talking benefits, because a $1,000 raise was $394,000. We're looking at a 2% raise is the same, 394. That doesn't include the benefits. I apologize.
Right, okay, so
It's about the
that
same.
makes some sense.
And
Okay.
Robbie, is that for the elected officials?
No,
Is
they
it
are not
department
included in the
heads?
394. They've already received, any elected official, anybody on the CTAS schedule has received a raise already. That does not include any of those people. I took those off.
And what I would agree to is that it's $1,000. It's not a one-time bonus or,
So,
a thank
right,
you.
right.
But that it goes throughout the year.
Yeah, it's recurring, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
And the next year.
And, right.
Well, but that it goes throughout the year,
recurring.
that it's not a one-time shot.
Right.
So
They're
Robbie,
going to get
this is
overtaxed
Mr.
on it as
Chairman.
well. Excuse me?
You're talking about dividing it up through the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, otherwise they'll get hit, on a higher tax rate too.
True.
Sorry.
How many pennies would that be?
520.
Whatever the $1,000 across the board would be.
3.2.
So we would add 2/10 of a penny. Wow, but we're at 2.8 in savings.
Yes.
If I'm doing this math right. So basically, the raise is already there in the current number we have. I think if we all but a little $50,000 or something like that. So I'd like to make a motion, we do a $1,000 COLA across the board, estimated at 394 employees, I would assume. But it sounds like that changed in two or 3 days.
It could be lower or higher. I mean,
It could be, yes.
Second.
I so moved.
But we're never over 400 employees, correct?
We haven't been recently, no.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've done this before. I plan on doing it again. We can call up Jay to discuss this. Anytime in the last year and anytime during this year, and I think this makes about the third or fourth time now, I have voted for pay raises for county employees. Being a county employee, in order for me to vote for that pay raise, I felt it necessary to request, instruct the finance department and/or the sheriff to remove Shane Val's name from this pay raise, and that's what I want to do this time. I got some criticism on that. Apparently, I didn't sound the trumpet loud enough last time to where everyone heard that, and caught a little criticism for it, saying that I voted for myself a pay raise. I did not. I did not intend to do that, nor do I intend to do that now. The reason I want to vote for this instead of abstaining from it, I want the county employees to know that I support a pay raise for them. I want the jail officers who work with me each and every day, who make $13.72 an hour, who walk into a housing unit with over 60 men, charged with everything from being ugly in public to first-degree murder, to know that I support them having a pay raise. The only thing standing between our jail officers and those men is a red line painted on the floor, and their training and fortitude. I support the pay raise for all employees, don't get me wrong, but especially our jail officers and our patrol officers. So, Jay, whatever procedure needs to take place for that to happen, I want to be able to vote for this pay raise and be exempted from it. And, Mr. Chairman, if you'll allow, I think Jay's coming up to address what action needs to be taken for that.
You are correct, Commissioner Val. You've stated this numerous times. You've talked to me. You've not taken the pay raise before. I know that. But the law does not allow you to vote on this. Now, you will be able, under the new law, to vote on the entire budget. This is a change that was put into effect a few years back. But you're going to have to abstain from this specific vote because it's been carved out. You can vote under the new law on the overall budget. But here we're dealing with, even though you're not taking it, okay, this could potentially, it's going to put money in everybody's pocket that's an employee. My recommendation is for you to abstain. That would be similar to Commissioner Waddell, but it's an abstention for cause, okay? Abstention for cause lowers the vote count needed to pass this measure. When it comes to when the overall county budget, whether it's in the form of the tax levy resolution or the appropriation resolution comes, you may vote on that. But as far as now, we're pulling this out as a specific motion. My advice is to abstain, both of you, for cause. We've got 8 members on this committee. It would take 5 to carry it. Okay, with you both abstaining for cause, it brings it down to 6. It'd take 4 to carry the motion. Is there any questions on this issue? But you're correct in the past history of this, and I can confirm that.
So you're saying it's not legal for me to instruct the finance department or the sheriff?
That's fine. Oh, that's legal.
That is legal for me to do so?
Yes, sir. You're welcome to say, just like I would say, I don't want this raise. I don't want the $1,000.
And then I can vote for it?
Yes, sir. No, you need to abstain from this specific vote. Okay, but you can and you are allowed to vote on the entire budget on this new law.
Later on.
Yes, when it's all packaged together. But now we're talking about a specific measure that's been carved out only on raises. I would request, and I think it's sage advice, that you both abstain for cause, bringing that vote count down. You've got 6 members. Okay, it'd take 4 to pass this measure. Any other questions on this issue?
Mr. Chairman, I don't like the law director's answer on that, but I understand it.
We would encourage you to take his advice. Any other questions?
Everybody appreciates you, Commissioner Val. All the employees do.
Any other questions on this motion? All in favor of the $1,000 across the board?
Does he need to say abstains?
Are you going to abstain?
Yes, sir. I will abstain with cause.
We've got 2 commissioners, 2 members that's going to abstain for cause. That'll be 6 voting members here.
Can the motion clarify how we're funding the raise with the additional savings plus, or?
Yes, that's correct.
With
plus
the
a half
monies,
penny, or?
Yes.
Okay.
with the monies that we've already recognized here.
And a half a penny increase in the tax levy.
Whatever the difference is, that's correct.
Right.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we had 2 abstain. 6 aye, 0 noes, 2 abstain. Next issue, the sheriff's budget. $6.75 pennies.
I move we go with 6 cents.
Got a motion that we go with 6 cents. Need a second.
Second.
I got a motion that we go with 6 cents for the sheriff instead of $6.75. Any discussion? Any discussion? I suppose the same 2 is going to abstain?
With that motion, can we also include to increase revenue $500,000? Because we've never passed that, and I would like to stick that $500,000 in the revenue code, the additional.
That's correct.
So make that part of the motion too, please.
Include increased revenue to $500,000. And you're not directly affecting the person. They should not have to abstain.
Mr. Chairman, Jay, please come back up to the desk. I want to make sure that we are absolutely clear on this. There was never a problem with Sheriff's Department employees voting on anything else in the Sheriff's Office budget. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. We can vote on anything that doesn't particularly put money in our pocket. Is that a
Great way to
generalization?
explain it.
Exactly.
That's it. That's cuts through everything, puts it in simplified terms. That's it.
You do.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Teresa.
Robbie, does the proposal from the Sheriff's Department, does that include pay raises?
The 100, I mean, no.
Okay.
No, it does not.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not double dipping and handing out. Thank you.
Any more discussion? The motion is we reduce the 6 points. Phil Yeager.
Are we trying to say where that 6 cents goes, or do we leave it up?
Well, stand up where I can hear you and see you.
Come to the microphone, Chair, Commissioner.
Are we trying to tell the sheriff where that 6 cents goes, or are we just giving him 6 cents?
It goes where he requested it.
Okay.
It goes in the general fund and pay for his expenditures that he's requested.
All right, because he has it for,
And it will be the original budget we have. The budget we have on file right now is what their budget.
Jail and officers, so I just want to make sure that everyone knows what.
Whatever his request was.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor?
This would be a reduction because he's already got been approved of 675, right?
This is a reduction of 0.75 cents.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion of the sheriff's budget of 6 cents tax levy? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No.
That's 6 cents plus 500,000, just to be revenue.
To make sure I understand, everybody that votes yes, raise your right hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. And opposed, no. 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion fails. Do I hear another motion on the sheriff's budget?
I'll move that we grant the Sheriff's Department 4.5 cents.
I got a motion for the sheriff's department from 4.5 cents. Any discussion? I got a motion. I need a second.
I'll second that motion.
I got a motion and a second.
So I'd like to amend it, Mr. Chairman, to include the $500,000 revenue increase for the jail.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Wait.
He's got a question.
Yeah, could you clarify the 500,000?
The sheriff's estimated the letter he gave us back at the last budget committee, his projected revenue to 2.2 million rather than 1.7 million, asking for the 4.5 cents. I'm just going by
so
his request.
that's revenue that's already
But we need to vote to increase it to the 2.2 million.
Gotcha.
Any more discussion? All in favor raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I ask a question of Finance Director that may be, depending on his answer, it may give you an idea about our budget.
Ask it.
Yeah. Robbie, in figuring the tax revenues that we got coming in and preparing the budget, how was the delinquent taxes handled as far as that? And the reason I'm asking, we haven't had a tax sale in a number of years, and there's over $200,000 in delinquent taxes from the 2014 year, 208,000 from the 2015 year, and 325,000 for the 2016 year. Is that somehow figured in that revenue when you're deciding how if you could advise the Budget Committee on that and myself.
Well, we do have prior year collections in revenue. 40130 is clerk and master prior year, and we have that budget estimate at $285,000, and we collected $195,000 this year. And interest and penalty prior year, we estimated $160,000, and we reached $148,411. So we are accounting for some of that money, yes, sir.
Is coming in?
Yes.
Okay.
May I address that? That's not from sales, though. That's from where people have come in and redeemed their own property.
Right. Paid tax.
And I would like to make it known that it's the county tax sales that have not been held. The other tax sales for the other municipalities have been taken place on an annual basis, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Jay?
And Mr. Chairman, may I add one other point, just for information on you as the Budget Committee and for County Commission. I could wait till bring this up at County Commission, but if we have a tax sale, and I think that the trustee is preparing one now, that is advertised. And those people that aren't paying their taxes jump up and come running in and pay. So we haven't had that influx of payments for about 5 years. And I think that's important to go ahead and advertise and have a tax sale, because those are the people that aren't paying will come in and pay, many of them. And there'll be less parcels that are sold.
Yeah, well noted. Yeah. Mr. Yeager.
Yes, sir. I just addressed Commissioner Denenberg's question. There was a couple years that I did not have a tax sale on Norris and Oak Ridge during that Dahlia pending lawsuit, but we had a tax sale last year, and we've got one scheduled for November, and then we're going to follow it up with another one in the spring for just those two entities, Norris and Oak Ridge.
Okay.
I don't do the county
No, that
taxes,
point I wanted to be made, that
yes.
the county is where we are falling short in our tax sales.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I don't know their plans.
I understand. I just wanted to make that known to the public.
You're correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we took our vote on the sheriffs, right? Now we're going with capital projects. 1.5 cents. I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, can we move that item down and address the schools first and save capital outlay for last?
Is that the pleasure?
Sure.
Schools, 6 cents. I need a motion.
I'm going to make a motion that we go with 5 cents for the schools. And as I understand it, that would go to capital outlay.
I got a motion on the floor for the schools to receive 5 cents on the tax levy. I got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Just a point of clarification, please put in the motion that is capital outlay money, or you're going to start affecting maintenance of effort real quick. Okay.
I thought that's educational capital projects. Isn't that?
That's what we have in here.
Yeah. We had it worded right.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Well, I'd like to see it as same as the sheriff. I'd like to see it 4.5. So I'm gonna be voting no.
More discussion.
I agree with Denver, or Commissioner Waddell. I don't think it's right that the schools get more than what the Sheriff's Department has to work with. I think it's very unfortunate as well that they've chosen to request the money in the form of the children by saying, well, if you don't give us the money, they're not going to get their books, they're not going to get a new roof at this school, the gymnasium won't get completed, etc. I think you guys can figure it out and find it, the other portion, in your own accounts.
Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair.
You're sitting behind that pulpit there.
The pulpit. Just as a little note on math here, you up the sheriff's revenue $500,000 that you're allowing him to spend. So technically, I mean, if I were going to be in charge of that, I would say that needs to come back in and pay off the jail. But you are letting him spend that. So that is the equivalent of 3.08 cents. So in reality, 4.5 plus 3.8, you are giving the jail more than the schools. So just a little point of clarification.
Okay. Any more discussions? Mr. Meredith.
To the mayor's point, I think my 500,000 revenue estimate was to go to the jail. Is whether my motion was.
Yes.
Okay.
What's to go where?
The 500,000 will go in his jail, not in the total budget.
In the jail code. That's the way you understand it, Mayor?
Yes, that's why.
That's not the way we understood it. If we could get some clarification on that.
That's what's in your. Yeah, increase prisoner boarding, increase revenue project 2.2 from 1.7.
Correct. And if you'll read in the letter, you'll say to cover the operational expenses for the officers that we had requested at the onset when the budget was approved at 8.3. We lowered it and we did the 4.71.
I need to read the next sentence. I apologize.
That's fine. And to the mayor's point, I mean, it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. It's not putting 3.3 cents on the taxpayer. It's actually revenue coming in from the prisoner board bill. So I think that's a mischaracterization of what that number really is.
I also do. I felt like the 4.5 is what we're putting on the taxpayer. Therefore, I was saying 4.5 on the taxpayer for the schools.
And so just for the way I interpreted the motion, Mr. Chairman, is the 4.5 would go to Unit 1, half of Unit 1. The part of that revenue increase would offset the remaining costs. It would be around $35,000 to fully fund half of Unit 1. The 4.5 and then around 35,000. And then the remaining of those funds would go towards the 5 positions that we asked for at the very beginning. And that was why we had made that proposal, was to reduce the tax levy request and to build it off the revenue increase. And that was under the guidance as well as Ms. Erb before she left.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
One more thing, Chairman. For the raises, are we at a half a penny? Is that where we're at? Right. So if we go with the 4.5 for the sheriff, 4.5 for the school, and half for the raises, that keeps us under the 10 cents that I keep hearing about. That's just what I was looking for.
I'm not sure.
No, the raise doesn't.
Equating, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I see equating what we give to one department, schools, and relative to the sheriff's. To me, there's no relationship, but they requested 6 cents originally, and we cut it to 5 cents. So I just don't see the relationship there.
Thanks, sir.
I would just like to say too, I think there's some confusion on the sheriff's money, the 4.5. In the budget, we have all of Unit 1 opening, and that wasn't mentioned in the motion. So if that's the motion, then we need to make the exact motion the way they want the unit open, and how many people we're hiring, because I have to change budget figures for those things. So I need that verbatim.
And we have that ready for Mr. Holbrook after we met with Commissioner McCamey, and we really have had this ready since when we sent the email to you all early spring in terms of opening half of the unit, and then the other part would fund the operations.
So maybe the motion could say accepting his budget based on a 4.5 cent increase, his new budget that he's proposing.
Okay.
I don't know if I understand exactly what you're asking for.
Well, right now in the budget, we have the full Unit 1 is completely open, full Unit 1, not a half. So, I mean, the motion that we just passed with the 4.5 cents didn't clarify whether we were open in half or a full unit. So I need to change the budget, the expenditure totals, to reflect a half a unit, if that's what the motion's for. Does that make sense?
I guess I made the motion. It's my understanding we were talking about half.
That was my understanding.
Okay.
But
Talking about half.
I can send you those updated numbers today. They're ready.
That will work. Thank you.
And that was your intent?
Yes, my intent. Maybe I didn't make it clear, but.
And the seconder was?
Sorry, I'm good now.
That was your, okay.
And the mayor wants it.
Just for procedures for your other 8 commissioners, what you might do is approve that, the spending level, and then do an official approval of that, of what their budget looks like, so you know what you're voting on at your next meeting, at the 13th meeting. So, because like for the schools, it's easy. You did 5 cents, that's going into the capital projects. There's not a budget to be laid out. It's one plug-in. But you all would see the breakdown because they're going to have to go back and put together their line items and all of that. So just so that everybody's on the same page, just they could send that out probably Monday, I would guess.
We could do it today.
Yes,
It's ready.
yes.
Okay.
And I do want to say too, I'm not mischaracterizing that, because if you are approving use of the revenues for expenditures, there is a maintenance of effort. And if those revenues do not come in, then it will be on the taxpayer, unless you entered into some kind of agreement with the sheriff that if the jail number's lowered and you didn't need the facility, then he would return it. But otherwise, it is a lock-in, and it could have an impact if those revenues don't come in.
I hadn't thought about it from that angle.
Yeah, so.
Well, and to that point, she's right, but I think we showed in our communications budget and our alternatives to incarceration budget that if it's something that this department doesn't need, we're not going to submit to you a budget that is not needed. We made $150,000 cuts in those departments because we didn't feel like that there was a need for it. And if the numbers do not warrant, if we somehow dip to 300 at the jail, I am confident that we would go back to the table and come to this body and say that, because we're not, it's painful for us to stand up here and ask for more money because we want to be as mindful of the taxpayer as possible. But this is something that, as we stand here today, we need it, and I do think we'll need it for the foreseeable future. Tomato. I mean, we look at it a little different, but just rest assured that as long as Sheriff Barker is your sheriff and the command staff that's in place, we will come to you at any level in our budget, whether it be patrol, jail, dispatch, whatever. We're not going to just have fluff. We're going to cut it. I think we showed it in this budget process.
And we'll depend on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To kind of echo that, when we first completed Unit 7 of the jail, we moved inmates from Unit 1 to Unit 7. The Lord blessed us. We had empty beds. We went a long time without having to have Unit 1 operational. So we shut down Unit 1, and those costs for that housing unit and the jail's expenses did go down. We were able to do that for a while. When the opioid epidemic struck and things have started to skyrocket in the crime statistics, it's brought us to where we are today. If the Lord blesses us again and the opioid epidemic goes away and we're able to reduce, there'd be no reason for us to have an empty building sitting over there with 3 or 4 officers sitting there looking at the walls. So we would certainly be able to reduce the cost, and we'll certainly come back and let this committee and full commission know that. But as Tyler said, I don't see that happening anytime soon the way things are going.
You don't see the Lord blessing?
I see the Lord blessing, but I see a lot of people resisting the Lord's blessings. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One thing that might help too, in this year's budget, past year 18-19, we budgeted $1.7 million in revenue for prisoner boarding, and we've already reached $2.28 million, and without Unit 1 any of Unit 1 opening. So we've already made the goal for last year, what we're asking for next year. So I don't think that'll be hard to reach.
Okay. So where we at on the schools? Got a motion on the floor for 5 cents for the schools. Discussion. Did I get a second? Got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Are you just taking the tax levy now, or would the $400,000 that I had proposed from County General Fund one-time money for Chromebooks, could that be a part of this motion, or?
I didn't have that as part of my motion.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor for 5 cents for the schools. I've got a second. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Motion passes.
Can we have a 10-minute break?
General capital projects. What'd you?
I was asking for a 10-minute break.
A 10-minute break. 5 after. 5 after. Annette fixed a whole pot this morning. Did she? Yeah. Yeah. add something to the agenda. Do I need a motion to add that?
We do.
This. We're still on modified. We'll call our meeting back to order. Mr. Robbie?
Yes, sir. I have a suggestion before we get into capital projects. On the raises, we can take that half a penny away, the increase. We had funded $280,000 out of 263 to fund EMA's capital projects, and we're not using that any longer. I would like to see if we could just fund $150,000 from the 263 as operating transfers to the other funds in the general fund, like solid waste, library, EMS, and highway to cover their raises, then the money we have left over in general fund will cover ours, and we would have it covered.
I'd like to take that motion.
Well, we have one on, we haven't voted yet.
So,
Got a motion and a second to do just what Robbie said.
I got it.
Sir, ma'am?
We didn't vote on the 5%, did we?
Yeah, it passed.
Okay, never mind. I slept since then.
Any discussion on this motion?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Would that actually be an amendment to the original MRI? Would it need to be an amendment rather than a motion?
Amendment then, would that need to be an amendment rather than a motion to the original motion?
Mr. Chairman, the maker of the motion it's an emotion to correct what earlier action.
I so agree.
Okay. Second.
So, and we are not putting any money for disparity. We're just raises only, right?
Raises only. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That puts us back to 9.5.
Sir?
Puts us back down to 9.5 instead of 10.
I hope you're doing the math right there, Commissioner.
General capital project, 1.5 cents.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
I think Commissioner Waddell's got the right number, but to verify with our finance person, are we currently at 9.5 cents according to your calculations, Robbie?
That's what I have. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I've got a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? Got a motion and a second?
No.
I took the motion serious, and I've got this. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
I have budget amendments.
Motion fails. General capital projects, 1.5 cents.
Microphone.
Oh. I'll be glad to get out here and go killing bugs. General capital projects, 1.5 cents. Mr.
That's
Bob.
already included, right? In the 9.5?
No, that is not included in
That's not
9.5. That's just motions we've made today, the 9.5. This is up for, I mean, if that's included, then it's 10, 11, right?
Robbie, would we, how do you think we stand on fund balance and covering?
I think we'll have a little more than $2 million in rollover money.
Could we take the, what we need for capital projects and out of that money?
We could, yes, sir. Not for the bigger, the priority, the bigger, like the roof, that's like over 500,000. But the smaller items, I think we could.
But for
Which roof are we talking about?
The priority list for the capital projects.
I talked to Rex, and he said that the roof on the at the DARC building, that it was going to make it several more years, that we didn't need to do that. So,
well, that's not what Roger's saying, I don't think.
Big smile.
I think Rex is setting Roger up.
well,
Hey, we're still in a minute. Hey.
That got his attention.
He said that he had talked to Brogdon Roofing and that they had said that there was some repairs that needed to be made, but it didn't need a new roof, I believe.
That was a double standard. It does. Roger's opinion.
Okay.
Rubber on the roof is fine. It really is. It's okay. But over the years, the settlements and stuff of the roof, it's coming down, water's ponding. Everybody here know water ponds. It'll leak. And they've literally tormented the daylights out of me down there over leaks. So, and I have got, I've been talking to Pring Construction and stuff this week. I've got a leak that's under the unit, one of the units that they have set. But it's not only under General Sessions 2 side. It's down through Emory Valley side. Any day of the week, y'all want to come down, it's raining, we'll take a tour. So that's Roger's opinion versus Rex's opinion. Love him to death, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying.
I think he's just going on what he was told by a roofing company that came to look.
Like I said, legitimately, the rubber's good, but the roof ain't worth a flip. I'm saying you got ponding, and if you've got ponding, you've got leaks.
You're talking about the structure, understructure of...
Yeah, it's settled over time. The building was built, 64, I think, or something. Roger would like to have a roof on it if we intend to stay.
Okay, thanks, sir.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Yes, please.
Tuesday of this week, the Oak Ridge commissioners were asked to come to the Oak Ridge Chamber to talk with the advocacy committee, and 4 of us were able to, or 5 of us were able to attend. And one of the things that we did bring up was help from the city of Oak Ridge in the maintenance of that building. And it was made perfectly clear by us that the roof is an issue. So I think that's certainly something that we need to look forward to, is trying to do what we can to get the city of Oak Ridge to help with any monies that we're going to need for the maintenance, especially the major maintenance of that building. Thank you.
Thank you. Good point. Mr. Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've kind of remained silent for a lot of comments that's been in the media about this growth and commissioners talking about all the growth. And with my full-time job, I really do know a little bit about these projects that everybody keeps referencing. But for this group and the members of the audience, you know, when we talk about this growth and it affecting the numbers, whether it be sales tax or property tax, they actually aren't on the books. Is there a lot of growth? I think you can start at the interstate and go all the way to the end of Clinton and see just that growth, not counting our good friends in Oak Ridge with the mall projects. So our county is growing. But just to set the record straight, some of those property taxes are not going to hit the books for at least one more budget cycle. We have 2 housing developments, about probably 190 to 200 houses. Half of that project probably could hit the books by the time we do this again next year. The next ones could be the next fiscal year. We've got about $28 million in capital projects just in the retail side, as you can see. So there's a lot of things that could hit the books this spring when we start this process all over again. So I just want to be clear, there's a lot of people saying we can balance this budget on anticipated revenue. We don't do that at home. I don't think we should do it here. So I've heard a lot of my colleagues talk about it's going to hit the books. It's really not. It's going to. We're going to get this growth, and it's going to be up to this committee as well as commission to manage that growth, because we still have a lot of needs. I still have the sheet of paper that Natalie gave us on the 22 cents, to Commissioner Fritz's point, of capital improvement projects that needs probably $1.5 million of that probably needs funded now. But it's just not going to work. We're going to have to come up with a plan on this capital project stuff. So I just want to clear the air on all this growth with the sales tax. I know the schools are excited every time they see a store open. They're right, Dr. Parrott. So, you know, all of that fits in this same mix. But we do have to offer incentives. We do have to attract, whether it's retail or industrial. We do have a lot of that going on. And I think this committee as well as the commission will be surprised when we sit down this year and we see that growth number as well. So I just wanted to point that out. My idea on the capital improvement, if we're at 9.5 cents and this committee's okay with that, I personally think we should take 0.5 cent and put it toward capital improvement. We've been meaning to do this year after year after year. I think at some point in time, we need to start funding this larger requests we get, like the roof and that. So, but before I make that motion, I really think that we need to go ahead and make the motion for the schools for the $400,000 to be put back in their fund for the Chromebooks. They've been a willing partner. They've helped us in all of this. And I would like to make that motion before we address the full capital outlay. So I so move, Mr. Chairman. That's one-time money out of the reserve.
I got a motion on the floor for $400,000 to the schools out of undesignated reserve for the Chromebooks. I got a motion. Need a second.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Discussion. Got a motion on the floor, got a second. I need discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All in favor raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? Raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3. Motion carries. And you didn't vote, Chuck?
I'm still thinking.
Motion carries. General capital projects.
Yeah, 4-3. That's what he said. That passed 4-3, Mr. Chair. Okay.
Didn't it?
So you had 4-3-0.
And one abstention.
One extension.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Is it wrong? Am I wrong?
Take 4, it takes 4.
Mr. Parliamentarian?
No, I'm only in full commission.
As far as I'm concerned, the vote passed.
You needed 4 to pass. We got 4, right?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned. Moving on. General capital projects. You got a motion?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I move we took a half a cent and move it toward our capital projects fund, the general capital project fund.
Heard the motion. I need a second.
I'll second it.
I got a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I think my math's right. Now, I've got a request from Ms. Scott here to add this to our modifying our budget. Ms. Scott.
Correct.
Yeah. Sir. Hold.
That 400,000, that will go into the same capital outlay fund?
Same capital outlay fund.
Because we'll have to run back to you to ask for it.
That was the intent?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Scott.
Thank you. I was going through the book over the past couple of weeks of what the requests were from the different departments. And then I went back and looked at the money that was turned back in. We had about $2.8 million that was returned to the general fund from different departments over monies that they didn't spend, but were allocated. The papers that I've given everyone, there is one section in there I have to let you know that it's data processing equipment, which is 709, the General Ledger Code 709, 317, which is data processing, 307, which is communication. Those aren't added into this figure. But what I have given you is what I've gone through the book, through the 101, through our general fund, and found where departments had requested, whether it's postage, supplies, staff development, travel, funds that they've requested to be put into their budgets and clearly didn't use. Whether it was $14,000 for postage that they turned back in at the end of the year, supplies and materials, $28,000 for one department. They used $14,000 and turned the other $14,000 back in. We've got $271,322 worth of requests of modifications. And I'm sorry to say to Commissioner Dennenberg that I didn't get these to you anytime sooner, simply because I was writing them out so you could read them until midnight last night.
Thank you for your friendly materials.
But I've gone through. What I did was I just picked a code and went through the book and went, really? I mean, you've got departments that are requesting money for travel and they haven't left the county. Why give them the funds if they're not going anywhere? It's time for us to really reel it back in and spend what's necessary. You know, a couple months ago, I was asking everyone to bring it back to budget, that there's too much fluff in the county. And oh, God, there's no fluff. Well, technically there is. Call it what you will. We've given departments funding that it's just clearly not necessary. They didn't use it. They gave it back. So I don't know how you want me to do this, if I make it in a form of a motion to make the amendments. But it's $271,000. That would bring us back under 10 cents. Rather than put it out there and get it back at the end of next year. That's kind of like saying, well, I'm going to bank on the fact that I'm getting a tax refund. You know, live within your means.
So this is not a motion.
It could be if anybody wants it to be, yes.
Well, then, the whole, we've all heard what Ms. Teresa's saying. Make me a motion, let's see where it goes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that the general ledger codes modification requests of general ledger codes, 3 line items 348, which is postage, 524, which is staff development, 355, which is travel, 711, which is furniture and fixtures, 499, which is other supplies and materials, 349, printing, stationery, and forms, 399, other contracted services, 336, maintenance, repair, and equipment, which comes up to $271,322 be pulled from their budgets and kept in the general fund.
I got a motion on the floor that we accept these numbers here from Ms. Teresa for $271,322 in modifying the budget even further. I got a motion. I need a second. I've got a motion. I need a second.
I'll second it.
I got a motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Val.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate what Commissioner Scott's trying to do, and Lord knows how much time that it took, so I commend her for those efforts, I really do. But before we do that, kind of like Johnny brought up earlier, I would like the department heads being in front of us, being able to answer the questions of why did you not spend what you asked for. In most cases, I would assume there would be some reasonable explanations. These are questions that I think last year Budget Committee, I think Commissioner Fritz brought up with our motor pool. Our motor pool had saved money. They had asked for a certain amount of money to buy some certain parts, found the parts cheaper, had the money left over, and we were going to penalize them by not giving them the same amount they had requested the next year. I would love to hear some reasonable explanations for the department heads before we pass this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Fritz.
Stu, another thing is you can't budget down to the penny. You can have different things happen during the year that causes your budget to fluctuate up and down. And I say, until you have an opportunity to address each and every single department to come before you and address them, I mean, we shouldn't even consider, cutting a lot of these, things out, because, I mean, the money is coming back to the county. I mean, it's not going somewhere else. I mean, it is coming back into the funds. So, I mean, there's not money not being wisely used, unwisely used, or whatever. And so, I think, as Commissioner Val said, this is something that if you want to go this route, it needs to be addressed, to have every single department come in here and have each department address each and every one.
I thought we'd done that earlier.
We have.
Discussion. Any more discussion?
I'd like to say something.
Mr. Bob.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think a budget is a plan, and you're not going to be able to anticipate everything that happens during the course of the year. But I appreciate Commissioner Scott's efforts here, and I do think, I have thought for some time, we need some tighter budgeting than we've seen in some cases. So appreciate your work on that, Teresa.
I'd like to say, too, that I gave Teresa the information to pull these figures together, but I feel like this is something we need to do on the front end of a budget season and not in August when we're facing a deadline and an interim finance director got to make these changes, because that is asking a lot. But I also think that the budget committee could be more mindful in the budget committee meetings when people are doing amendments from these codes. That's when you have your chance to say, do you not need this money in this code? And maybe adjust it the next year. I think sometimes we rush through those amendments and we're all, so that's an opportunity to do that then, to take those codes when they're amending money and stuff. That's just my 2 cents.
Mr. Holbrook, if these amendments, if this passes, what kind of workload would that put on you?
So you're saying that you want to reduce every code to what?
Not every code,
The ones that are on the sheet to the savings code?
I'm saying
one of the things I need to address is, this isn't our money. It's not my money. It's not your money. It's the taxpayers' money. And you're talking about putting a tax increase on these folks. It's crazy. When we are able to pull the reins back on $271,000, if somebody comes along and says, well, you know what, I need $500 more for postage, that's not a big deal. Why give them the funds? This goes back to the argument that I've had before of why request a full cookie jar when all you want is one Oreo? There's no sense in departments getting an overage and then saying at the end of the year, well, I just didn't need that money. We haven't given it back to the taxpayers yet. It's living within your means. And when we've been meeting at these budget meetings, you've got someone who will say, well, I'll make a motion to approve as a group. Well, wait a minute, let's talk about this. Let's look at these items one at a time. And this is what happens. We had a department that just about 4 years ago requested $21,000 for postage and used $5. It just doesn't make sense to say not to cut these back. It may create an inconvenience. I understand that. I'll come in and do data processing for you on a Saturday morning or even after work. But I'm not saying don't give them anything if they need it. At the end of the year, we're getting $2.8 million back right now. Sorry, I'm a little passionate.
I can see this both ways. I can see it both ways. But Chuck is saying, if they get money, request money, and don't use it, it comes back into the general fund. Teresa's saying that they're asking for more money than they use. So I could see cutting it back. I guess I can't see doing it right at this point of our process. I think Teresa's got a great point. And I think when she says that we, and Lord knows I have failed many times. And a lot of times we pass budget amendments as a group. Maybe we are to look at it in a way to where that we don't have $271,322 overages.
And that's just out of a few of the items. I didn't go through every line item to figure out where they came up with $2.8 million. Okay.
Yeah. We got a motion on the floor. We got a second. All in favor of...
I have something I want to say before we vote. Thank you very much for this information. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at one department for postage, $15,000, and they turned back $7,000. Other departments that, you know, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars and turning back a good portion of it. Without question, these things definitely need to be looked at and scrutinized much more carefully. And I agree with Commissioner Scott that a lot of this has to do with things coming before us and we're approving as a group. And we're not going through them line item by line item. That's our shortfall. I just...
Can I say something on behalf of your county officials for a moment?
No, Tim, she's got the floor.
I'm sorry, I thought she was going to...
I'm not finished, Mr. Scott Shelton. Please sit down.
And I had my hand up before he jumped.
Yes.
Well, wait. We're going to do the best we can. The best we can.
He's out of order.
Well, wait a minute,
He's
though.
always out of order.
Ms. Denenberg's got the floor.
But like Chairman, I'm not sure we're at the point that we need to be doing this now, but I still would like to see that money coming back. And I'm still pondering it, so I yield the floor to Commissioner Creasy.
Mr. Creasy.
Well, I think there was some folks ahead of me, I think. Was Rick wanting to
Who wants
speak
to
on
speak
that?
on this side?
Told you we should adjourn.
I've been on both sides of this, being a former office holder. Good. There's two sides to this. At least they saved the money. They could have easily done all these budget transfers and spent it.
They could have, but it's going to cost the taxpayers
Well,
another
but
2 cents up front.
To Commissioner White's point, you look at that 2A. As far as the election commission, yeah, they spent 7, but they could have easily spent 15. You know, as an office holder, and there's 1, 2, 3, there's about 6 out here, you're looking in a crystal ball. You might mail out 1,000 pieces, and you might mail out 3. So it's either get the money or you come back and ask for appropriation. There's 2 sides to it. You did a great job. I'm not disagreeing with any of this, but you got some major cut. You got some major.
And I'm going by what they spent last year.
I understand that. That's why there's a rollover. It's difficult to get it exact. It could get closer, but this process, I would save this sheet of paper when we start this again in March and just hold on to this and say, hey, here you go. Because we're behind the 8 ball now. I'm not disagreeing with what you pointed out at all. I'm just saying it's difficult as an office holder to hit dead on some category.
And I understand that. That's why I'm saying, though, Rick, that if they need the money, it's always a matter of stepping back forward and saying, I'm going to fall short in this particular code. We've heard it all year long. Sure. It's been a game of nut and shell where someone comes up to say, I need to make a modification because a truck blew up. So we're going to pull it away from travel and pull it away from here and there. But they still turned in X amount of dollars at the end of the year. What I'm asking for is not to have another 2 cents added to our tax increase, proposed tax increase, that ultimately affects all of the county.
Mr. Meredith has the floor.
No,
I'm just responding.
I yield to it.
Mr. Creasy.
I fully support what Commissioner Scott's doing. She's worked real hard, and I think we should give her the full benefit and study this. I know we've got a deadline, but she's made a good point, and she's done a lot of research, and I fully support her, and we got 2 more meetings, thanks to the mayor, to get this done, and I'll be for it when I have a point to vote on it.
Thank you. And just for clarification, this, like I said, it's only out of the general fund. This has nothing to do with roads or EMS or anybody else. EMS gave us 3 proposals and they went for the Cadillac. So just keep in mind, this is only.
But that was going to be my point too, but why just do it for general fund? You could do this for every fund in the county. You
could.
Because,
you could.
I mean, the schools have, I'm not picking on anybody or trying to include everybody, but every budget has leftover money, and obviously the general fund needs money for capital projects, and this might be what, I mean, don't overfund your budget to get money for that, but this is the way to use that. I just don't think it's fair to pick on the general fund. That's just my opinion.
I didn't have enough time.
I know,
like I said,
and that's what I'm saying. We're at the last month. Our budget's due August 31st, and we're trying to cut every line. That's not, it's not a smart move. It should be done in May and April when we start the budget, not now.
Mr. Shelton. The mayor.
I do want to applaud Commissioner Scott for putting this together. To the finance director's point, I think this is something we need to look at for next time, and just from a procedural standpoint, like I was looking through the list here that Commissioner Scott has. For instance, drug court, that's actually a grant. Those are funds that come in from the state. So if we reduce those line items, that isn't reducing the tax rate. I mean, so for instance, on the travel code, that's getting a reduction. Those budgets are set up. We have to send those in to the state. That is approved by the state as part of the contract process. So this is something I think is going to take a little more time to flesh out. And to that point, there is no law against reducing the tax rate in the future. And I think this is a plan where you could come back next year and you say to the taxpayers of Anderson County, we're doing a little more homework. What you're talking about is, I don't know if it was Commissioner Meredith maybe 3 years ago brought up the idea of doing one-time, zero-based budgeting, where maybe we take a few departments this year and we say, let's true up your budget lines. What do you, are there great variances where people are getting $30,000 in postage and they really only on a 5-year basis use $7,000? But I just think if if this motion passes, there are many departments that are going to be coming in on the 13th. You're going to have to give them an opportunity. You're going to be asking us to apply it for compliance. Is this grant money? Is this true general fund money? So I think it should be a goal that you aim for a tax reduction doing some of this next time around, but not having the benefit of distributing this to all the departments and giving everybody the opportunity to respond or answer the why. I think it's really a timing issue. So.
Sure, and I appreciate that very much. I won't be voting for a tax increase if it's skyrocketing the direction it's going. I mean, we really need to look at alternatives to bring it back down.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Shelton.
I've not seen the list. I don't even know if I'm on it or not. That really wasn't what I was going to speak to. I am? Yep. I'll say this. There's a difference in budgeting something versus spending something. And what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of departments that forecasted to spend money that for whatever reason and for whatever benefit were able not to spend that money. That's not something that we chastise departments for. That's something we really get excited about. What I would hate to hear is that we go to cutting some of these things, and then the next thing you know, you're coming up at the end of the year having to take out of the undesignated fund balance because postage was cut, but I got 1,600 different items that I have to mail out for whatever reason, be it by law or whatever. We want to be as concise and as close as we can. We're very respectful of the public's money also. And I just wanted to clarify to you guys that we appreciate how you budget. We appreciate the interest you take. Teresa, I'm very interested in looking at this to see what those are and see if I could make those cuts. But I would certainly recommend that we put off making these movements at this moment, although I'm not going to say that we won't do it mid-year or somewhere down the road, but the problem with doing it right now, I've not even had a chance to look at the list. There may be a reasonable explanation for a lot of these things. And so I've just asked to be patient and give the departments the opportunity to approach that. We went through that budget cycle. You asked departments to come forward, and we had presented budgets, and to my knowledge, there were no questions at that time of those line items. And so in good faith, we moved forward. Now you've got a lot of departments asking the question, is that what we proposed, is that now being questioned? I think that's a concern I've got because I feel like I've been very conservative in the spending.
Sure, and going through your particular department, you have. Yeah. But stepping back a moment and saying, well, there was a point when you came to budget and it was passed. It was approved as a group. I said no. Because it was everyone who stayed within last year's budget, let's give them the same amount of money. This is only just a piece of the pie.
Sure.
I mean, there's $2.8 million that was turned back in. I applaud everybody for keeping within their budget and turning money back in, but my main concern is a tax increase.
And I appreciate that, and we'll work with you all as best we can to help get there.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chuck.
I keep hearing, when we approve things, we approve it as a group. We get our chief deputy sends our packets out to for our full commission meetings only Wednesday. We have Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday, then all day Monday to review our packets. And then we have any questions to contact anybody on that, department heads, anything like that, before we come to our meeting that Monday night. That means when we come to our meeting that Monday night, we're supposed to come to that meeting fully prepared and ready to vote on any item on that agenda, which means when we vote as a group, you have an opportunity to pull something out if you have a question that you haven't resolved before the meeting. So when we vote, you should know everything that you're ready to vote on at that particular time. So that should not be any issue whatsoever, because from Wednesday to Monday, we've had ample time to do our homework and come in to be prepared for any actions that we take as a commission on that Monday night.
A good point, but I think Ms. Teresa was saying on our budget committee.
Correct, it was during budget.
Well, even on budget meeting, we get our emails in advance.
Well, but I'm saying that
I've been known to voice, everybody knows that if there's anyone that has any questions, I'm the first one to throw my hand up, especially during budget. And I've been told that I've been too harsh on some people and or departments because I want to cut this, or I want further explanations for why they want that. I'm just asking people to stand up and say, this is how much we want, and this is why, and this is how we've come to need it, as opposed to saying, well, we need $10,000. Why? Well, because.
Good point.
Thanks.
I got a motion on the floor, and I got a second that we approve these cuts as presented. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion as presented, say aye.
Really? You guys are precious.
All opposed of the motion as presented, say no.
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 Thank you, Ms. Teresa.
Very welcome.
Moving on.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm not going to agree with
Yes, sir.
So next now, I went to the yacht, 205 Main Street.
Yes, sir.
336 is what it sold for to a private individual. That's with the buyer's premium.
336 plus 10.
No. It's 336. That's with the buyer's premium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the
So
information.
what would our part be?
336.
336?
Yeah.
That's 2 cents.
Did you bid on it, Tim?
It looked like a good sheet.
It's 2 cents.
Item number 3, general fund finance.
We're getting into the budget amendment portion, so are we complete with the budget as far as y'all are concerned?
I assumed we were.
Okay, sure.
So we're moving on to our regular budget meeting.
Right.
Proceed, please.
The first item is a appropriation from the Register of Deeds for book restoration, $40,000 from the Archive Reserve Fund for reducing it $40,000.
Which page number is that?
This is page 1.
1 on the back of the book, of the packet.
At the very end.
That's out of the Archive Reserve Fund.
Yes.
Everybody got your place?
Yes, sir.
Just working on it.
Okay.
What page is it? Number 1?
There's $72,156 in that
Hold on,
reserve.
Rick Robbins. Let everybody find their place.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Are we good?
Yes, sir.
Let's go. I told you we should have adjourned.
Proceed, please.
I need a motion to pass or fail.
I got a motion. I need a motion. Motion to approve. I got a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to approve item 1, the $40,000. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Oh, I have a question.
Question.
I was just going to ask the Register of Deeds, how many books is covered by this request?
This is 12, we had a total of about 30. This is 12 of those 30. You remember a year and a half ago, we came and we did a contract with this company to refurbish our books from 1802 up to 1888. And so that's that time period that we're looking at. And those are the records that were hand scribed by the registers back then. So that's the purpose for preserving those the way that we are. But this is year 2 of that. We'll come back again next year for the last portion of that. It should be, I think, around $26,000, $27,000 is all we'll have left.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just to let you know, so you have a heads up, that fund grows, or excuse me, that archive fee grows at a rate of about $30,000, maybe a little bit more than that. We try and keep it close to that number so that the balance that we have of $70-some thousand stays there for any type of emergency that we might need for archivable purposes.
Good point.
Okay.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Number 2, please.
Number 2 is Safe Routes to School. It's a general fund grant. We're increasing revenue, $199,995, and 2 expenditure codes we're increasing for engineering services, $10,200, and other construction, $189,795. We had this grant at the end of last year, and it's a the state reimburses us as we submit invoices, so this is what we're looking.
Sort of flow through money.
Right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Okay.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, Highway Department.
The first one from the Highway Department is to increase their heavy equipment, $13,833 out of the restricted for highways. They actually received this money. It was a insurance recovery that was in last year. So it flows in their unassigned, and they're just requesting to move it to heavy trucks this year.
Motion. So moved. Got a motion? Got a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, and the next 2 are a bridge replacement project that the Highway Department's working on.
Got a motion to approve?
Second.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Discussion?
Which bridge is this?
Mountain Road.
Hines Creek.
There you are.
Yeah. I'm sorry to say it's on here somewhere.
Bridge on Mountain Road.
Yep. Over Hines Creek State project number, whatever.
Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the last one from Highway is decreasing the restricted for Highway $200,000 and increasing asphalt $200,000.
Got a motion to approve? Second. Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Question?
Gary?
Yes.
This asphalt, is it going to be covering any of the roads that are currently rock? or gravel?
Well, I might be one of them. It might very well be, yes. Very well could be up in Lake City community.
How many miles of gravel
Probably
road?
30 miles of gravel road still left out, about 530.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Gary, if I could follow up on that. How do you determine to leave a gravel road gravel?
Well, it's funding. If y'all would like to give us an increase, we'll be glad to blacktop them, but it's the funding and the traffic level. And
Traffic level is what I-
And then the housing occupancy. I mean, with the gravel road, you have a dust factor. You've got a lot of travel and dust in houses, and some of our gravel roads are not really heavily occupied or populated with houses. It's connector routes, and the gravel section is not in front of some houses. So a lot of that just it plays into that, and the bottom line is money, and we appreciate what y'all do.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Did we vote on that?
I don't think so, the last one.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, from the school department, physical services, they're increasing their regular instruction program textbooks, 100,000, and regular instruction equipment, 100,000, and decreasing their unassigned reserve, 200,000. They need to purchase additional textbooks and Chromebooks for the current school year.
Got a motion to approve? Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and the last appropriation I have is from solid waste. We're moving money from the Glen Alpine Restricted Fund.
Yes, sir. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hooray, 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 right? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and the last thing on the budget committee agenda is the Tuppertown real estate property sale. I think operations has made a motion to request to give them $10,000. There was some talk to give them more. That's up to the budget committee, so I'll let you guys talk that out.
What is the pleasure of the board? Question.
What was the... wait for him.
Sir, they requested 10,000.
Wait a minute. I'm waiting for a break here. They forgot that he's on. Robbie,
I'm sorry.
you're on.
I didn't hear.
So Tuppertown,
Yes.
what is the, what was the amount of the sale? Total?
90,000.
We received, I can't remember the exact amount, but we received 95,000 because if you recall, the contractual agreement we had with Stevenson for the auction was,
I think it was 103,000.
we got a rebate on the buyer's premium, so we plus that up another $5,000.
So we've got that money.
Yes, sir, we have received it. The check Robbie's deposited, and yes.
And
yes.
last year?
105.
No, it was, we received 95,000.
Okay.
And some dollars, I just don't remember what the,
We received 95 plus.
yes, sir.
Mayor, was there an agreement for us to give any of the funds to Oliver Springs?
No, ma'am. Oliver Springs has a state grant, and they're short on funding for the Carmichael Park. And I don't know if you've ever been down there, but that's related to the Mamie Carmichael organization. And the city approached Roane County about a contribution and Anderson County about a contribution. Roane County donated $10,000 towards that park project. And the mayor was hoping that Anderson County would do the same thing, would match that. And then when we sold the property, then they came back with a request for all of the proceeds. So that's the second letter. But if we look at contributions that we've made in different communities, I think the $10,000 request, I would like to see us at least do that because we did the Peace Bell in Oak Ridge. We helped with the South Clinton Park and Millie's Wings. We've done we did the industrial road match for Norris. In all fairness, it would be nice to do
And I
something
appreciate
for Oliver
that.
Springs.
One of the things that's in the back of my mind was that at one point ASAP came to us asking for assistance, which led them to be on the courthouse steps for about a week because we, as a county, or I'm sorry, we as a commission denied them of that assistance. I'm not in favor of the $10,000.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wandell.
Wandell's out there.
So this property was offered to everyone and nobody wanted it. And we decided to sell it and we get more than what everybody thought it was worth. And now everybody wants a little piece of it. We're raising taxes on our residents 10 cents. And we just sat up here and talked about being more frugal, saving our money, watching what we spend, and we're looking at giving $10,000 away, not 15 minutes later. So we've got several projects that need looking at. One would be in Claxton, the convenience center, which is not very convenient. We finally got Andersonville's taken care of, and we need a piece of property for Claxton now. I'm going to oppose this. I'm not willing to give any more money away when we're raising taxes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Discussion? Motion?
There's a motion on the floor. Give 10,000.
Got a motion on the floor that we give $10,000 to the city of Oliver Springs from the sale of the Tuckertown property. I got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All in favor, raise your right hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. Motion carries. So,
While we're on that particular item, we did receive $95,000. So there'd be $85,000 left of those proceeds. And I'd like to see that money earmarked for the relocation of the East Wolf Valley Convenience Center. The Solid Waste Board has talked about it, and we really need to relocate that. And if we would earmark that $85,000 remaining for that purpose, I'd like to see this Budget Committee recommend that.
got a recommendation. We earmarked that $85,000 for West Wolf Valley.
Mr. Chairman?
Wait a minute, let me finish what I was going to say. We've got a recommendation to earmark that money for the East Wolf Valley project. I understand there's no land being looked at, bought, whatever.
Oh, we're looking for land all the time.
Does anybody want to make that a motion?
Mr. Chairman, let's defer to our next budget meeting. Then we can get some solid waste.
Okay.
That would be my motion.
Got a motion to defer that.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to defer that to our next budget meeting. Is that the $10,000? The $10,000 already passed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. This is the remainder of it to earmark it. Any discussion on that? All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. And the last item we have on the list, it's not on your list, but Brian has something to say.
Come on down, Brian.
I guess it's right at noon. Good afternoon. close to it. I have some things I need to bring before you that Karen Holbrook and I have, Robbie's been very busy with the current activities. He's asked Karen and I to dig into some of this, but what we've, working with our phone vendors, the one issue I have is I laid on each one of your desks, and sorry for the delay in getting this. We literally just got this prepared at about 10 minutes before this meeting to have some of these numbers for you. I gave you a document that's third and fourth quarter 2019 renewals. You should have that. These items are the BCTI group that supports our phone systems and the bond that was put into place in 2014 to purchase this equipment, to purchase the phone system. It was a 5-year bond from what I've understand. Karen informed me that we are at currently 2 more payments left in the bond. I think the bond payment was $9,700 or $9,200. I'm not sure on that number. But where we're at is after that 5-year term was completed, which we're in October at that point, we're in the new year with that process. We have nothing that I have or that we can find to move forward with the next few years with this product. We have Cisco equipment in the buildings, in all of our buildings, that provide the systems for the phones. Also, they provide our internet connectivity to those phones because we've chosen to put this system in place. So that being the case, to maintain this system, to put it in a nutshell, we have some yearly expenses going forward that were not in the bond as the bond's completing. If we continue forward, we have at this point $19,327.80 that will be required to continue using our equipment with our Cisco vendor. Cisco requires maintenance and licensing to use their products, and that should be funded in this third and fourth quarter of 2019. I checked with Miss Cindy with BCTI. The first and second quarter projections, which I don't have in writing yet, she's working on those. She said to let you all know that's roughly 1,000 for first and quarters, or first and second quarter. Third and fourth is where the lion's share of all of the renewals licensing for the equipment that we have must be paid. We didn't have time to get this to you other than now. If we need to move this another month forward, Cindy may be able to work with BCTI, but due to the short-time nature of bringing this to you, I do want it on the table. However, we proceed forward, but I do need some kind of recommendation to give back to our vendor about these fees that will now be coming forward. And this will be a yearly fee, something similar to this amount. It will continue to reoccur yearly in that third and fourth quarter.
What's the chances of those fees going up year to year?
I wouldn't see them going up. As a fact, I would say they might come down a little each year, just a hair, but not
Pleasure of our
going up.
board.
I'd like to defer this to our next committee meeting.
Got a motion to defer this to our next budget meeting. What will that do to your?
I'm not sure what will happen if we tell them no on the, I mean, she could probably hold off a month. That's not a problem. But if,
Well, our next meeting is the 13th.
that's fine. I think that's not an issue. I just wanted to bring it to you so it's not. Is operations where this should be? I've asked a couple times, should we put this in operations and then come back full circle to budget?
No, if we're going to meet the 13th.
13 special.
That's special call.
Take it to operations Monday, and if they decide they need the money, then I can do an amendment for commission, the regular meeting for that commission meeting.
Let's defer it to operations then.
That's what I would do. And we can still get it done this month if we need to.
Okay, I got a motion. I got an amendment to the motion that we defer to the operations.
Operations.
Is that good with your second?
Which is the 12th.
The 12th.
The 12th. That works for me.
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Show up on the operations committee.
Well, yes, sir.
Please. Mr. Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian, I know you gave us some information today on your request.
Yes.
Would you be opposed that we defer this to the next budget meeting so we can really dive in. This is the first time I've seen it.
Yes, and there's more to come with this,
Well,
too.
that's fine.
That's what I was
Are you
saying.
okay with, that's the handout that Brian provided us on that? I think we defer that to our September meeting, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Okay.
So you can be here the next September Budget Committee meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very well. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the other item is, I think on the back to the capital improvements, not changing anything, Robbie. Yeah. I do think that, I know there's several large items that need to be addressed, but I think it would be good for this group that we, hopefully, the 13th, we pass this budget, and then this group come back together and earmark. Robbie needs time to really close out what these rollover fees are, whether it's 2, 1.9. It's hard for us to sit here and guess. He would have a more accurate number at that meeting, and then we can address some of the larger capital projects, especially these essential ones that people keep standing up. If that's okay with this committee, I don't know if that needs a form of a motion, but I really would like to be included in Tuesday's report to commission, that we will, this committee and commission will take forward the rest of the capital out projects needs.
It's a form of a motion or suggestion, or?
Yeah, I'll just make an emotion.
I got a motion that this goes to the,
I'm sorry.
Make it one more time so we say it again so we can write it down.
everybody listen.
I'll try. That the capital outlay projects that was presented us 2 months ago, and I know that list has changed, it would have to be updated to give back to us. Let's take that list at the budget, let's pass the budget at the budget committee in September. After you get a final number on rollover cost, we can start addressing those essential projects one by one, as well as other items that need to become before us. That would be my suggestion.
That's the motion. Need a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
I hope we're done.
Second.